Come on in, everybody. Welcome to our design studio. This car here's had all the badges and markings professionally covered so that you don't know what it is. I want you to take a look around it and give us your honest opinion about what you think about this car.
Oh wow, this is the coolest car I've ever seen. Wow, all of this is so nice. Whoa, everything feels so good. Oh yeah,
Look at these headlights. Look at this whole hood here. That's aerodynamic sculpting for a noticeably sportier appearance. François, what do you think about this car?
Ouais, c'est pas du luxe. C'est une Chevrolet.
If all you watched on television were advertisements, then you might think that this car is some sort of new BMW. At least that's what Chevy's marketing department wants you to think. But we know better. This is a Chevy Cruze. Our spotlight is on this 2017 Chevy Cruze Premiere. We're going to be going in depth with this car, showing everything about it, and especially it's the first time we've had the opportunity to see Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in action. However, we are going to be showing just a little bit of it because we're going to go in depth with it on a showdown episode later on. And we're going to take this car for a drive and go over what you need to know if you're in the market for a compact car. This is a car. It has 4 doors. It has a steering wheel. It has a 7-inch infotainment screen. And as configured, it's about $26,000 or 26 US iPhone 10s. But since we're in Canada, we really should adjust for our exchange rate so you could get about 19 iPhone 10s for this price. So this is Chevy's compact car to replace the first generation Chevy Cruze. And we've had an opportunity to be driving it for about a week now. And we've certainly got some opinions about it. This is the Premiere trim. This is the highest trim you can get for the Cruze. And it's got leather seats, but we found that they aren't overly comfortable. They're kind of firm, very flat. You know, I think on long distance drives, you're probably going to be a little uncomfortable, but driving around town, it's not too bad. But not so much about the drive comfort, but the visibility is very strange with this car. It's hard to see on the video here, but the windshield, mirrors, side windows, and rear window are almost all completely the same level. You know, it really feels like I'm driving an aquarium where the top half of the car is window and the bottom half is very thick plastic all around, and it's just a weird position. You know, I find even in a comfortable position for me to be able to sit, I feel like I'm very low for some reason. It feels very low to the ground, and having these higher up door cards with a very strange design here. I mean, the windshield, you know, I can almost see the front of the car really. Kind of feels like a Prius, almost like one of those sloping windshields that go all the way down. So a little different there. I found the mirrors too are kind of useless. The side mirrors are pretty small. And really seeing out of them, especially that one for me, that's way too low. The top of that door trim is really where the mirror begins for me. I mean, if I were any shorter, I wouldn't be able to use that whole mirror entirely. So a couple of things like that. One of the things we do like is the infotainment system on this. Now, if you were to buy this car as is, like I said, it's the Premiere trim with no options at all. It is Premiere trim, no options. So if you were to get this, you do get the 7-inch screen. And it's, you know, it's not bad. The audio is pretty good. You get XM radio and AM and FM, and then through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can listen to your own music or have full navigation like we were demonstrating earlier on. So it is nice to have those features. It's one of the few cars that you can get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay in.
And one of the major selling points of this car is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's one of the few cars that actually has a system up and running at this point. We found that with Android Auto, while very buggy and not always the same consistent results that we were able to get out of the system, we did like its abilities a lot more. The maps were richer and the music had a nicer interface. And one of the other things too is you can use different types of services. You don't have to be stuck with the Android system. You could be using Waze, which I know is Google, but you can use Spotify and other things like that. Switching over to Apple CarPlay, it was much easier to use in the sense that you plug it in, everything works. We had no issues with it during our demonstration, but if you aren't completely in bed with Apple's ecosystem, you're going to have a bigger problem. Apple Music is really the only thing you can use, and Apple Maps is definitely the only thing that you can use for navigation. We found that it was not as detailed and user-friendly as what Google was doing. So stay tuned next Monday, if you're watching this on September 25th. So the week after will be our full episode of Test Drive Showdown on Android Auto versus Apple CarPlay. So check that out if you're interested in these technologies.
Chevy has put an auto start-stop in this car, like a lot of automakers have. But unlike a lot of the automakers where your push-to-start button has a button around it to disable the automatic start-stop, Chevy does not allow you to do that. Car's off. I can't turn it off. And before somebody says to me, oh, read the manual, it's in the manual. It's not. I read the manual. I've got the manual right here. Okay? Right here. I went through this. And you cannot do it. They do not allow you to turn off the auto stop. It is hardwired into the car with no override whatsoever. And yeah, I understand the reason why a lot of the car makers are doing this. You know, you aren't going to see a savings, right? You as an individual are not going to see it. But when you have, you know, a million of these cars that are sold, and there's a million cars that are shutting off every time they get to a red light, then cumulatively, globally, it helps the environment. But the fact that you can't disable it is a problem, because right now, right, we're stopped. Power steering, I don't know, I guess it kind of works. But if there was an emergency and I needed it to go right away, some truck was barreling down behind me and the brakes didn't work, I have to let go of the brake and then hammer the gas as the engine's turning on. Not really what I like to have. I always turn those off. I have not met a single person who has ever kept the auto on-off feature on. There are some other features with this car too. With the Premiere trim, you get keyless go, so like I said, you get a push button start, and you also get their keyless go proximity key, which allows you to unlock the door from all four doors. They all have a little thumb button there for you to push. But then you also have the option of being able to remote start the car. You push the lock button on your key fob, you hold the remote start button for 4 seconds, and then the car will start. And then if you haven't started it with the ignition here, then you can push that button again for a few seconds to cancel it, should you have decided not to go on your voyage with your remote start. The backup camera does something that most backup cameras don't do, is they have guiding lines to show you where your bum, at least of the car, will end up as you're reversing and turning your wheel at the same time. Something that we've talked about with some of the other recent new cars that we've featured where they don't have that very simple feature, really. I mean, steering wheels are all electronic these days, right? It just needs to send an electronic signal to the computer in the car to say, here's the direction the wheels are going, just update the line. So it's got it on this, which is very nice. So the headlights here are halogen. You can see on your screen right now, we're showing the difference between the halogen headlights and high beams on this car versus LED system that is available on a lot of cars. And we talk about it a lot on this show. It's at the point now where halogen headlights just aren't cutting it as a safety feature anymore. They really should start putting LEDs as standard on these cars. So again, you know, I know it is more of an economy type car, sub 30,000 price point, but still, I mean, really, LED lights, they don't cost that much. I still am betting money that it is cheaper for an auto manufacturer to make one headlight that is LED only rather than having a design for LED and a design for halogen headlights. Just make one, it'll end up being cheaper and people will appreciate it more. So the headlights are not very great on this car. And you can see the video that we did, that's the CX-5 that we've got. I know it's an SUV, but still, you can see that getting into the forest there, you can see a lot more and it's a lot brighter, especially with fog lights too. You have LED for both versus the halogen, just headlights only on this car. Now you also get things like heated seats for the front, and then there's no dual zone climate. You do have the option to get a single zone climate control system if you pay a little bit more for the different packages that you can get. This is just the regular system here. You can change the temperature with a dial and the fan speed with a dial, and it displays up on the screen what you're doing when you're changing it. Even though you can see it on the buttons there, they just display it up on the screen there, which is kind of nice. It goes away after a second. Oh, brakes work. Oh yeah, those brakes, they just grip. All 4 windows are automatic. But they're not automatic up. driving along here on what I would consider to be a pretty typical Quebec road, and you can hear there is quite a bit of road sound. You should still be able to have a conversation with your passenger, but it's certainly not as quiet as some of the other vehicles that we have tested prior to test drive in this segment. There's no argument when it comes to the popularity of this car, especially here in Quebec. There are a lot of them. We see a lot of the first generation Chevy Cruze on the road. They made them for a few years, and then the second generation just came out recently too. So it is a newer car, but we do see quite a few of them on the road, and it seems to be a popular choice for people of all ages. I know that Chevy seems to be marketing this more towards the millennial type of crowd, but for the most part we see buyers of all ages driving these cars. And as far as economy cars go, as far as compact cars go, I mean, you do get quite a bit. It's not the worst design. The interior does have, you know, hard plastic up top, but they do have some softer, probably leatherette material that goes around the dashboard and around the door cards a little bit. So there are some things that are soft to the touch. The armrest is good. It's not very wide, but it's actually in the right position that you want it to be. It's not adjustable, but again, it's actually in one of the best positions that we've found for a vehicle. You know, right there where I'm sitting, it's nice and comfortable. You've got your arm there, and it's probably going to be the most comfortable thing on your long drive. Your back and your bum, on the other hand, maybe not so much, as we mentioned earlier. And that's it for our spotlight on this 2017 Chevy Cruze Premiere. If you have any questions about this car, please leave a comment below or send an email to niall@perpetualradio.ca. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, as it helps rank us amongst other videos out there, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, take care.